At the commencement, the noble caste was always the barbarian caste. The superiority did not consist, first of all, in their physical, but in their psychical power. They were more complete men, which at every point also implies the same as more complete beasts. Friedrich Nietzsche, Beyond Good and Evil. What's going on, YouTube? Michael R. Schulteis here, author of the Rostoval Saga, which you can see, as always, on the shelf over here. Today I'm coming at you with my review of What Else? A More Complete Beast by Jack Donovan. This is book 3 in his series of practical philosophy books. It starts with The Way of Men and continues with Becoming a Barbarian. So now we have the third installment of the 3. And we've learned about the way of men. Way of men is the way of the gang. The 4 tactical virtues: strength, courage, mastery, and honor. We've gone on to learn about how to become a barbarian. How to separate ourselves emotionally from the state. From this whole decadent dispensation. So we've come a long way. But Jack Donovan says, but there's a trap. There's a trap that is just waiting for us, and we need to be very, very aware of it. And we need to know how to disarm it. Or rather, how to not walk into it. So a point that Jack Donovan makes in all of these books, in one form or another, is that taking up the path of excellence, of strength, the authentic path of masculinity, the real way of men, it's an inherently difficult thing because this world that we live in now no longer demands it, and it no longer even admires it. If you go out and try to improve yourself, you're like, hey, I'm going to live in a way that evokes timeless themes of masculinity. Strength, courage, mastery, and honor. You don't have to demonstrate those values. Society gives you a wonderful free pass. I mean, it's not wonderful, but society gives you this free pass to not demonstrate those things. I'm not saying that your life, that it actually is a free pass. I'm saying that in general, in this modern age, we don't have to demonstrate those values. You can go your whole life without demonstrating any of those things. So it's inherently very hard. And on top of that, when you go out and you try to improve yourself, you're trying to embody these values, it's not just that you don't have to, it's that you probably won't be thanked for doing so. And this, Donovan says, leads us into the problem that is the subject of this book. The problem of resentment or resentiment. So this book is very quotable, like the previous 2 books. And I'm going to give a number of quotes to help you understand the flavor of his writing and just the quality of his insight. Some of these are just so well worded that I really can't improve upon them. So Donovan's talking about striving to embody masculine virtues, the tactical virtues, striving to be a real man. And he writes, in another age, one imagines this striving would be expected or widely admired at the very least. But not this age. Today you will be called a fool and a faker. You will be lectured about the toxicity of your pursuit by partisan quote-unquote experts, and you will be told with smug and haughty snark that your desire to become more of what you already are is a product of your quote-unquote insecurity. Parroting these experts, there will be celebrities, popular writers, educators, and corporate media mouthpieces who will insist that you are behind the times, that you must evolve, which in every instance means to become less like a man and more like a woman. Your efforts to realize your own masculine potential will be dismissed with an affected amusement in an attempt to disarm and discourage you. And in the very next breath, the same people will say that what you are doing is a threat to women, to quote-unquote progress, to equality, and to whatever they call freedom. What? Did you turn this way seeking universal affirmation? End quote. So the problem for a lot of us, and boy, have I wrestled with this a lot, especially when I was younger and starting on this path and making some progress and finding that, oh, actually people don't want you thinking for yourself. They don't want you to be strong and capable of handling things yourself. When you are weak, when you are essentially not realized, well, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of ideas and influences in this world that are more favorable to that because they can use you, they can control you. So Donovan writes, quote, "It's easy to accept victimhood and luxuriate in it, like an injured child who loves the attention. Pushing yourself toward an ideal is hard. Most people will choose the easy way if it is acceptable, and today it is. They will learn and repeat the mantras of universal acceptance and inclusivity and shun anyone who doesn't." End quote. Boy, does this resonate with me. Boy, if I had a lot of experiences that speak to exactly this thing. And now we come to the point where we realize, we live in a world surrounded by these people. I call them the peanut gallery. These people who have this mentality, and all their enablers who have this mentality, prioritizing victimhood. Luxuriate, you can get a privileged status if you can claim to be a victim. It's frustrating. It's arguably very unfair. And therein lies the trap, Donovan explains. A trap of resentment. Now, what is this word? It sounds like resentment. Well, it is. Quote, "Resentment is the French version of the English word resentment. And while it would be tempting to use the English spelling that rolls more easily off my American-born tongue, the French spelling indicates a more complex concept developed most famously by German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. In The Genealogy of Morals, he wrote, 'The revolt of the slaves in morals begins in the very principle of resentment becoming creative and giving birth to values. A resentment experienced by creatures who, deprived as they are of the proper outlet of action, are forced to find their compensation in an imaginary revenge.'" End quote. There's a whole theory here. And Donovan is not here to give you every piece of it. He's here to help you take a form of it that he finds useful and help you apply that to your life. So it's his commentary on Nietzsche, and he's not here to give you a complete picture of all of Nietzsche's thought. We're just trying to take this part of it and apply it to our own lives in a useful and a practical way. So this is getting, of course, into the master versus slave morality. Donovan says, look, that terminology is pretty loaded, and it might be hard to get past it. So he says, how about we say noble morality and anti-noble morality? Noble morality is life-affirming. It's positive. It's onward and upward toward the sun. It's bound up with a will to power, yes, with an excellence, with a pursuit to become more of everything that you already are. Bring out your potential. Anti-noble morality is something very different. It's negative. It's very reactive. It's cope. It's compensatory morality. It's, I tried and it didn't go well and it hurts to try, so I'm not going to try. And people who do try are toxic. That's the essence of it. Donovan writes, quote, "The attitudes that Nietzsche associates with noble morality are, for the most part, characteristic of an affirmative, adventuring approach to life. Noble morality is the morality, in Nietzsche's view and in my own, of powerful people, of masters, conquerors, and those who truly want to win and get the most out of life while they are alive. The noble man has a great reverence and respect for strength. The noble man chooses his own values because he believes in himself and his own worth and his own judgment. On the other hand, anti-noble morality is the product of resentment. The anti-noble man feels trapped. He believes that his own happiness and fulfillment have been thwarted by others. He resents them for having better opportunities, for having greater wealth, for having more power, for using that power to oppress him, my air quotes. The noble man views people, actions, and circumstances as either being positive or negative, quote-unquote good or quote-unquote ungood, in relationship to his own interests subjectively. Instead of recognizing the tragic and unfair nature of human existence, the anti-noble man constructs a system of morality that he convinces himself is objective, rather than subjective, as it truly is. In the context of his worldview, the existence of his oppressor is not simply unfortunate or ungood. It is objectively, morally evil. Moreover, the anti-noble man sees himself as an innocent victim of evil and believes that he himself is, therefore, good almost by virtue of being powerless. And he might add of being, therefore, uncorrupted by power. The world itself is evil because in this world, evil men who are evil because they have power over good, innocent men who have nothing and no power. So you may already recognize the contours of modern politics in this. Why have we been toppling statues of generals and conquering heroes and explorers and truly great men and replacing them with criminals and lowlives and activist agitators? Well, because of this. Because this process has been playing out in real time in our own lives. And it's so easy to be resentful. And I'll be honest with you, I myself struggled with enormous resentment, especially toward my parents' generation. Man, they had the best opportunity. They had the choicest plum in the history of plums, as it were, handed to them. What do they do with it? Nothing good. So this is where we have to stop and say, what do we do about this? Because it's so hard to not be resentful. And Donovan points us toward a very positive, uplifting solution. Donovan says, be noble. Yes, it's unfair. Yes, you're right to have a rationale for resentment, but don't let it actually happen. Don't actually fall into that trap. It only makes your life worse. Quote, the path is not away from resentment, but toward a higher ideal. The noble beast is not traveling away from weakness, but towards strength and a lifestyle that thrives on strength. He is focused on what he is and what he is becoming, not quote-unquote others or their paths, which serve only as warnings and counterexamples. He says, quote, the anti-noble man is obsessed with the noble man and articulates his own values by inverting the values of nobility. The anti-noble man assumes that the mind of the noble man is merely a mirror of his own jealous psyche. However, a noble mind is not a mirror. It is the sun. Those words have changed my life. And every time I find myself struggling with resentment, which I've had to work on a lot, I go back to this mentality. And of late, in listening to this book, the words echo much more clearly in my mind than they had for a little bit. I think I listened to this one back a few years ago. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because do you want to have a happy, fulfilled life, yes or no? Because if you don't, the world has plenty of excuses for you. You can be either content to be a slacker, or you can actually be anti-noble. Hey, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of circumstance. And the whole world will give you excuses, will validate, will enable your mentality. It's much harder, but much more fulfilling to choose the noble path of struggle toward a pole star of excellence. So the thing about this that I just love is it's such a positive vision. And we can always fall back on this mentality. As Donovan says, why conquer if not because you believe yourself worthy of conquering? Why fight if you don't believe you are worthy enough to win, or if you don't believe you, the living, thriving beast that is you, are worth fighting for? Why even bother living if you don't believe you are worthy of living well? The man who wants to be great believes that he is worthy of greatness. And it is so because he makes it so. So for a long time I thought, philosophy, it's not really my thing. And then I kind of reevaluated that with time. And what I've come to realize is that if you think philosophy isn't your thing, you're probably right about a lot of it, first of all. But the purpose of philosophy should always be to help you understand more about the world, about other people, and about yourself. And Donovan's books have been indispensable for me as works of practical philosophy. Has helped me to understand my own mind and the world and what to do What action can I take that will be different so I can solve problems that I have? That is what philosophy, I am convinced, is supposed to be. And we've lost touch with that in every way in the modern world. I mean, to the degree that anybody even bothers to read philosophy anymore. But you can't entirely blame them if they don't have something that is as clear and as straightforward and as powerful as this put before them. So the takeaway here is really live your life with a mentality of onward and upward. Be a more noble beast. Go forward with the belief in yourself and the rightness of yourself, of your own will to power. It doesn't mean being unrealistic. It doesn't mean not taking others into account. All of those things can be part, and should be part, of an upward quest, a striving for glory, the glory of excellence. As Donovan writes, the noble equation describes the internal world of a noble beast. It describes how he sees himself. Propelled by the thrust of this self-turning psychic dynamo, he sees the world before him with the savage, dilated oculus of one whose intransigent gut craves conquest before comfort and cannot be satiated in submission. Unbound by the moral valuations of whipcrackers and wary of a jealous trap, resentment, he tracks through the derelict hinterland of the soul, carefully and deliberately, treading lightly, evaluating the consequences of his impulses, his desires, and the choices before him with lucid reason. When he encounters challenges, he approaches them with the eye of a conqueror, the terrible and tenacious eye of a beast who looks for triumph, for some kind of win, for some positive outcome, even in his dying moment. When the way forward is blocked, his eye seeks a way around or a way through. His is the motto of Hannibal. Inveniam viam aut faciam. I shall find a way or make one. And Donovan elaborates on this. He says you want to have power over yourself. You want to be disciplined, but not to the point that you can't enjoy life too. That's all part of the balance. This short little book, it's about 80 pages, and it's just packed full of wisdom, and it will help you to live a better life if you are truly committed to doing so, committed to excellence. So what to rate this book? Well, as with the other books in this series, 5 out of 5 stars. No other rating will do. This book has powerfully affected my own thinking. It has helped me, and I find myself going back to it as I did recently. And it helped me all over again. So let's do what I usually do. Who is this book for? Who is it not for? Well, if you love self-improvement, if you have a strong sense that, I want to always be doing more with myself, and for yourself, but also for other people too. This doesn't have to be a selfish way of looking at things at all. I see my own excellence that I pursue in terms of what can I give to other people too. And I think the idea fundamentally is you figure out how to do something well, you can do a lot of things well then. If you know how to do something difficult, you can do a lot of difficult things. And you can take this foundation and put all kinds of things on top of it. So if that's your mentality, this book is for you. So who is this book not for? Well, as usual, I'd say the peanut gallery. If you are mired in resentment, you resent some other group of folks and you don't want to change. I mean, again, this book has helped me manage my resentment. But see, I actually want to manage it. I know I am responsible for my life. And if you don't have that mentality, you probably aren't watching this video, but you really have to want to get shy of resentment. And if you like your resentment where it is, this is not the book for you. If you like a victim narrative of any kind, not the book for you. And I'm saying this not only about the social justice warrior types, but there are people in other circles, more of the based and red pill circles, and some of them, to be honest, some of them would not be open to this book either. I think that they should be open to it. I think it would ideally be for them. But some people who have dissident views in some ways are simply caught up in the whole cycle of resentment and blame and wallowing in victim status too. And he makes this point in the book very clearly. No group of folks has a monopoly on resentment. So I'm going to wrap this up with a couple more quotes. Quote, "The highest form of self-control is to stand godlike above yourself and recreate yourself according to your own will. If your story becomes an obstacle, find a way to crumple it up and throw it in the trash can. Focus on the present. Write a new story about how you are going to handle challenges in the future." That right there should tell you if this book is for you or not. Because if you're fixated on the past and on your own perception of how you've been wronged, and you don't want to change and you're not going to change, not for you. If you actually like solving problems and you want a better life, totally for you. And one last quote. Quote, "The takeaway here is this: when you are tempted to luxuriate in lamentation over some loss, and we all are occasionally, start looking instead for the next win. Shift your focus forward." I'm going to add one more thing, and that is that Jack Donovan has been a big influence on my thinking. I've tried to bring it into my writing. So if you think that Jack Donovan might be for you, these books might really be enjoyable. Maybe you've already picked up one or two from my previous reviews. If you haven't done so yet, check out the Rostoval Saga. We have barbarian warriors, sultry slave girls, and boundless adventure in distant lands await you. And hey, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps to grow the channel when you do. Thank you again, and I'll hope to catch you in the next video.